my friends, it's time for some questions. And we got a bunch of them today. And by the way, we got a whole bunch of a number of really long questions. And frankly, we don't have the time to read all of those, and certainly in this kind of a format. And so if you want your questions to be addressed, please make them a little bit shorter. And then I got a bunch of anonymous ones. And it'd be really nicer if you would kind of associate yourself with some of these questions rather than be anonymous. David McIntyre says, what if people of the world had a video vaccine that would be distributed at the speed of the internet worldwide when the new viral threat emerged? And he wants to know, how do I suggest to proceed on this thing? First of all, I think this is a very intriguing idea. If you start with the underlying principle that everything is electric, and whether it's the electric universe people that you look at who are contemporary scientists who have come to that conclusion, which flies in the face of Einsteinian physics, by the way. It's the next stage of physics after quantum things. Or if you go to somebody like Walter Russell, who has built a whole cosmogony of how the reality all worked, and that was the product of a 37-day epiphany where he was carried off Elijah-like, or was it Elisha, or one of those guys? Yeah, and and was shown how it all worked, and so he came back and built this extraordinary kind of corpus of information about how the physics and the geometry and the other kind of stuff about how it all put together. That's interesting because he put a book together and sent it out to 450 people that he thought were the most important folks at the time, back in the 1920s or so. And the only answer he got back was from Nikola Tesla, who said, this is extraordinary. And he says you should bury it for 1,000 years because humanity isn't ready for it yet. Well, it's that profound and potentially explanatory that you ought to consider it. And what Walter Russell says, it's all electric. And light/electricity, and that's what's the base of everything. So if you buy into that kind of notion, then every other thing that's derived, including visual things and certainly audio, are all engineerable. And so if you've got that idea in your head, what it means is that humans are all, you can engineer anything. It's electric, right? And so you can engineer it, and you can clearly, there's all kinds of people in the scientific and the intelligence community and other things that they know how to do the electrochemical kinds of stuff to make you feel good or feel bad or get cancer or what other kind of thing, and do it from a distance, and do it only using, electric signals, radio, microwave, whatever it is that they use. I don't know what it is. But so it seems that the notion, this is an extension of the basic notion that says if you, which is being advanced in spades right now by all of the media and such that are producing this repetitive kind of information about false realities that the powers that be want proliferated. And if they say it enough times, what anybody who's looked into this knows is that then everybody starts to believe it. Well, if you take that basic kind of notion that says that if you can watch it on TV or if you listen to it on NPR or whatever it has, and they say it enough times, then everybody believes it and thinks it's true. Then it's not much of a reach to go up and say, why not use that medium for the proliferation and promulgation of the basic kind of information that you want to engineer, that not to change people's minds as much as change the aspects of their body and how the biology and how it works. Very interesting idea. Hadn't thought of that, but it makes a lot of sense. How you take it to town, I don't know. I would guess that it's a radical enough idea that you would really need to work with some small clinic somewhere and find a way in which they could try it out and kind of prove it out. But I don't know, but it's an interesting idea, David. Stephen Hyde said, is the loss of value in the Federal Reserve notes in US dollars a failure of the US Treasury, the US government, or private banks? Well, it's a failure of the system. And you forgot to put the Federal Reserve in there, because the US Treasury is the same as the US government, and private banks is different than the Federal Reserve is kind of extension of the private banks, or a component or of a functionality of the private banks. No, the failure of the whole system, as I suggested, is systemic, and it's related to the fact that the whole system is built upon the notion that the banks and the powers that be skim interest right off of the top of everything, and you got inflation going up, and what they do, the whole thing is built to where interest and inflation allow the system to deflate the value of the currency over time, because you keep taking stuff off of the top. That's what it seems to me. I mean, there's other variations on the whole thing. Starts to get political if you get into that kind of space, but no, the system is structured that way to deflate and the purchasing power of all this kind of stuff. And so if that's what you're talking about, the failure of the US dollar Federal Reserve note, then that's what it is. I mean, then there's geopolitical kinds of things as well that contribute to that, and the way we treat other people in the world is just really crappy. And why people would want to support that if they had the ability to do so. And now they're reconfiguring, the BRICS countries and others are getting together and along, and they're just saying, no, this is the beginning of the end of the United States and the Western kind of role that we've always played, for at least during our lifetime, for the last 100 years or so. Well, it's more than that, because the Brits ran things for a good bit. Why does the U.S. Treasury use debt to bring Federal Reserve notes into existence? Because that's the way this thing is structured. And if they can't, if they can't get, the whole question he's asking is that there is no, if you put more money into the system, it doesn't, there is no kind of intrinsic reason why you just shouldn't put money in and not obligate somebody for that money, because you're making it out of thin air. And I don't know, I'm enough of a conspiracist to believe that somebody's making, it's designed that way so somebody can make a whole lot of money, because otherwise they just distribute it out to everybody and give it to them, and nobody incurred that in the process. Thirdly, Stephen says, as hyperinflation results in the loss of value in Federal Reserve notes, is the failure bankruptcy of the Federal Reserve resulting in the extinguishment of the national debt to the Federal Reserve? No, as I said before, this thing is, the national debt is this kind of structural a problem that exists across the planet, and that these big institutions, the IMF and other kind of things, have driven people into a situation, to say nothing about politicians, into a local politicians, just that they have taken on huge amounts of debt with no ability or inclination to pay the stuff back. And so the thing has just gotten so big that it's inevitable. And, that could be this catalytic event that I told you about. The whole thing could just come collapsing down. And the strategy they're trying to use, driven by Klaus Schwab out of the World Economic Forum and some others as well, is to, in fact, the Great Reset that they talk about is an attempt to manage the collapse, and in so doing, wipe out all of the debt of the countries and the banks, take out all of that and sell it as taking out the debt for all of the people, so you don't have any car payments or house payments or anything else like that. But then out of the backside of that, they put in digital currencies and other kind of things, so that then now they have far more control over you. They get to start over, get rid of all of their obligations, and now they control you like crazy. And there's every time you turn around, you got to be worrying about, am I doing something that's acceptable to whoever the politicians or the government or whoever it is. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. You coming and spending a little time with me today. Where I hope you'll think about coming and spending more time with us on the 13th of May, when Penny Kelly is here with us at Transition Talks. It's going to be a wonderful afternoon, and you can find out about it at transitiontalks.org or at arlingtoninstitute.org, because this is one of the many programs that we have that are all kind of focused on this emerging future. And Penny is, for those of you, I think we had 600 people or something like that the last time she was here. And in any case, it was a sizable kind of group. And people like Penny, because she is really out of the box and she sees things that other people don't. She's an intuitive and a scientist and a researcher and an author of something like 15 books and so on. And so I'd encourage you to kind of plug in there and get some more information about that, because that's the next big thing that we've got on our agenda. So look forward to talking to you again in a month, and thanks very much. We'll see you then.